Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope everyone is keeping fine and safe. So as you know, we are discussing the questions related to RBI Grade B Officers Examination Phase 2. And in the previous videos, we have discussed up till question number 40. So in this video, we will be starting with the question number 41. As you can see, it's displayed on my screen. So see question number 41, which says, Marginal Utility Approach or NU approach was finished by J.R. Hicks, Alfred Marshall, J.S. Melley, and A.C. Pico, or none of this, which will be the correct answer to this. So the correct answer to this Alfred Marshall. Now Marshall was second generation marginalist whose work on marginal utility came most to inform the mainstream of neoclassical economics, especially by way of his Principles of Economics, which was very famous in those times. The first volume of which was published in the year 1890. Then Marshall constructed the demand curve with the aid of assumptions that the utility was quantified and that the marginal utility of money was constant. Like Jevons, Marshall did not see an explanation for supply in the theory of marginal utility. So therefore, he synthesized an explanation of demand, thus explained with supply explained in a more classical manner determined by costs which were taken to be objectively determined. Now, Marshall later actively mischaracterized the criticism that the costs were themselves ultimately determined by marginal utility. So, anyways, since Marshall was so much related to this, we will say that marginal utility approach was finished by Alfred Marshall. That is option number 2 is the correct answer. Next, moving on to question number 42. When, with a change in price, the total outlay on a commodity remains constant, it is a case of perfect elasticity, perfect inelasticity, unity elasticity, zero elasticity, or none of this. Now, coming to this answer, see, demand is unit elastic when the total outlay does not vary with the change in price of the commodity. It results in, firstly, with the fall in price, the demand of the commodity is increased, and also with the rise in price, demand contracts. But total outlay remains unchanged in both the above situations that I have said. So that means option number 3, which says unity elasticity, that will be the correct answer. Moving on to question number 43. Marginal cost curve has the shape of a rectangular hyperbola, has the shape of alphabet U, has the shape of the inverted U, all of the above, none of this. Now, if you go through the basic chapter of marginal utility, so you will see the key feature of marginal cost curve was its shape. It is a U-shaped curve, which means that it has negative slope for small quantities of output reaches a minimum value, then it has a positive slope for larger quantities. The U shape of the marginal cost curve is directly attributable to increasing. Then decreasing marginal returns and the law of diminishing marginal utility, if you know that the diminishing marginal utility returns as marginal product and it's laid on a small cost, but quantities marginal cost declines. Then as a marginal product and marginal returns decreases with the law of diminishing marginal returns for relatively larger output quantities, marginal cost also increases. So accordingly, we have the marginal cost curve to be a shape of U. It has the shape of alphabet U. That is the option number 2 is the correct answer. Next, moving on to question number 44. Completion is inevitable but has desirable forms that can be selected on an economic basis, is fair if everybody has equal change of being selected, is discriminatory, is desirable, or none of this, which will be the correct answer. See, completion is basically is fair if everybody has an equal change of being selected. According to me, this will be the correct answer. Why? Because fairness ensures that everyone has equal chance of getting selected. That is, everyone has equal opportunity without any biasness. So that is the basic element of completion. So accordingly, I will say option number 2 is the correct answer, which is fair if everybody has an equal change of or equal chance, it will be a chance of being selected. Moving on to question number 45. Again, we have another assertion and reason AR question. See, assertion says, today, managers with leadership qualities and skills are preferred to managers with expertise alone. And the reason is the managers or the major organizational change now emphasizes managing people and the process. The codes given are both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Both A and R are true. R is not the correct explanation of A. A is true, but R is false. A is false, but R is true. Both A and R are false. So see, today's organization are more people oriented, right? Instead of product oriented as it was in the previous times. So that is what people are organization's most important asset. That is what they consider nowadays. Managers today now need to have not only work related expertise skills, but also they need to have leadership skills so that they can manage such assets successfully, which is considered as the people, right? So accordingly, A is correct. Today, managers with leadership qualities and skills are preferred to managers with expertise alone, right? Also, R is also correct. The major organizational change now emphasizes managing people and process. And R is also the correct explanation of this. So A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of this. So I think we have option number 1 as the correct answer, which is both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Next, moving on to question number 46, which is also an assertion. The assertion A is given. Special rules and procedures are followed in the import-export trade, and the reason is the need for import and export trade is explained by the principles of comparative cost theory. Of course, we have both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. A is true, but R is false. A is false, but R is true. Both A and R are false. So let's see what is assertion and reasoning say. Right? See, importing and exporting activities are based on foreign trade or foreign trade policies, procedures, rules, guidelines, regulations, whatever they have that need to be followed to facilitate the movement of the goods in and out of the specific countries. Now, in the year 1870, David Ricardo, an English political economist, contributed this theory of comparative advantage in his book, special and very famous book called Principle of Political Economy and Taxation. Now, this theory of comparative advantage that he had laid, also called comparative cost theory, was regarded as a classical theory of international trade. It is still considered as a classical theory of international trade. Now, according to this classical theory of international trade, every country will produce their commodities for the production of which it is most suited in terms of its natural endowment, climate, quality of soil, or means of transport, capital, etc. It will produce these commodities or these products in excess of its own requirement, okay, in excess of its own requirement or demand, and will exchange the surplus with the imports of goods from other countries for the production of which is most well suited or which it is produced cannot be produced at all. Thus, all the countries will be producing and exporting these commodities in which they have cost advantage, and also import those commodities or products in which they have cost disadvantages. So accordingly, import and export will be facilitated, right? So this is the key advantage which he had played, and accordingly we have A to be true and R is also to be true. See, special rules and procedures are followed in the import and export trade. The need for import and export trade is explained by the principle of comparative cost theory, but R is not the correct explanation of it. So we have option number 2 as the correct option, that is both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of it. Right? So next, moving on to question number 47. The goal of financial management is to maximize the wealth of preference shareholders, maximize the wealth of debenture holders, maximize the wealth of equity shareholders, all of the above or none of the above, and none of the answers. So coming to the goal of financial management, what is financial management related to? Basically, the objective of financial management is the maximization of the shareholders' wealth. Now, to satisfy these objectives, a company requires a long-term course of action, and this is where the strategy fits in, right? So, accordingly, we can say then equity shareholders will be the correct answer to this, the maximization of the equity shareholders, right? So the goal of financial management is to maximize the wealth of equity shareholders, which is the correct answer. Next, moving on to question number 48. Indian banks have the maximum foreign branches in Bangladesh, UK, USA, Sri Lanka, none of these. Indian banks have maximum branches in the UK. It has branches in other countries also. It has in Bangladesh, it has in Sri Lanka, in many other countries they do have the, but the most they have the branches are in UK, which is the United Kingdom. So the answer, correct answer to option question number 48 is option number 2, which is UK, United Kingdom. Moving on to question number 49. Probable error is 0.6745 SE, 0.6457 SE, 0.6753 SE, 0.7645 SE, or none of the above. Now, tolerable error or the probable error, if you know, probable error is a measure of the error of estimate for a sample from a normal distribution, which is computed by multiplying the standard error, which is the SE, with 0.6745. 6745 is the correct answer, which is option number 1. 0.6745 SE. SE stands for standard error. So accordingly, we have option number 1 as the correct answer. Next, moving on to question number 50. For a positively sloped straight line supply curve that intersects fee price axis is equal to 0, equal to 1, greater than 1, constant, none of this. Now let's imagine, read out the question again. For a positively sloped straight line supply curve, if we all can imagine the supply curve which we had studied in our basics, see, you just imagine the supply curve that intersects fee price axis is equal to 0, equal to 1, greater than 1, constant, or none of this. Basically, if we imagine this supply curve in our mind, so we can say that if the supply curve intersects the vertical or the price axis, supply is elastic, that is E or the elasticity will be greater to 1 in any price range. If the supply curve cuts the horizontal or the quantity axis, then supply becomes inelastic, which is E is less than 1. If the supply curve runs to the origin, then the supply is unit elastic, which becomes E is equals to 1. So then accordingly, we will say it will be greater than 1, because for a positively sloped straight line supply curve that intersects the fee price axis is greater than 1. So we have option number 3 as the correct answer, greater than 1. Okay. So in this video, I have discussed up till question number 50, that is from question number 41 to 50 has been explained in details. So I'm sure all these questions that we had in this set of video was quite clear and it was quite easy also to be answered. We had much of assertions and reasonings. So assertions and reasonings are quite common in this kind of examination. We will definitely go through the other assertions and reasonings that we have in the next set of questions. So I will say, if you want to refer to the previous questions, please do refer to the previous videos. That was for the previous set of questions, and in the next videos you will be following from question number 51. So I hope it was quite understandable and you all did not have any problem. So wishing you all the best. Stay tuned so that you can follow the next video for the next set of questions. Thank you for patiently hearing me out so much. Wish you all the best and thank you.